away Carlos Dunlap to the Seattle Seahawks, and this really should come to surprise to nobody. I was thinking earlier about the teams that made sense for Carlos Dunlap to land with, and I kept saying, well, every team that I can come up with that makes sense, he's not going to end up there, because most owners with the brain usually don't take one of your players that has been disgruntled and ruined the environment in your locker room and reward them by sending them to a potential contender. Well, Mike Brown, he's new to this thing, and he sent Carlos Dunlap to the Seattle Seahawks, who offensively one of the best, if not the top offensive team in the National Football League, but they are as good as they are offensively. The Seahawks are as bad defensively. And again, Carlos Dunlap traded to the Seahawks. They got an offensive lineman and BJ Finney and a 7th round pick in the 2021 NFL draft in return. So I don't know a ton about who Finney is and what he brings to the table. It has to be better than anything that they have up front right now. And then you look at the fact that they got a draft pick in return for him. With that being said, the move is not going to become official until later on this afternoon after 4 p.m., they said. And, of course, the talk all week has been about, who's been in the wrong here. Carlos Dunlap is just getting every finger in Cincinnati pointed at him, saying he's this, they can't believe his actions. They can't believe how he's been acting. After the frustrating loss against the Browns this past Sunday, he goes on social media and he puts his house up for sale, which I thought was pretty funny. I thought it was a good troll move. Of course, that incident happened after you could see the blow-up between him and the Bengals defensive coordinator on the sideline after he was just beyond frustrated with a lot of the defensive play calling. My thing is this. Carlos Dunlap is frustrated for the same reasons that fans are, so why are we as fans mad at Carlos Dunlap for doing what a lot of players on that roster should be doing, and maybe not going after head coaches or coordinators or anything along those lines? But this is always the conversation you and I have had, is what is the responsibility of the players in regards to speaking up at a certain point when things are getting a little out of hand with how badly a team is performing. Now, I don't want to hear about the offense. This isn't a conversation about the Bengals offense. It's strictly about the defense. I think that if there's a player out there that has the right to be as frustrated as any other defender on that defense, it is Carlos Dunlap. A couple years ago, when the Cincinnati Bengals announced that they were giving those big-time extensions to Geno Atkins and Carlos Dunlap, I know people don't believe that I ever say anything nice about the Bengals, but I applauded that. I was like, that was a sign of good faith. That was a good sign from the Bengals front office that they were investing into the future, that they were investing into keeping the players that they have on this roster, which is, to be fair, Mike Brown usually does that. He usually takes care of his guys. Right. He's not the best talent evaluator of bringing outside guys in. But I like that they made those extensions, and Dunlap was worthy of it. I mean, again, he's very reliable, doesn't miss a lot of games. Same thing with Atkins, that type of deal. Dunlap's role has changed ever since Zach Taylor has come to Cincinnati. And the problem I have with all of that right now, Kev, is that when you look at that situation, this defense is garbage. It's been historically bad the last couple of years. You only have one or two good defensive players on that roster, and the one good defensive player you have in Carlos Dunlap, Zach Taylor's entire mindset was, we're going to come up with a scheme that we're going to use our only good defensive player. I mean, we're historically bad defensively. And the only good player we have, Zach Taylor and his defensive coordinator, come up with a scheme to use him less, Kevin. So I see where the frustration's coming from with Carlos Dunlap. The guy wants to win. He's been a Cincinnati lifer. He's been loyal to the Cincinnati Bengals. He's been there through the ups and the downs, and I feel like he's been very loyal throughout the downs. But what you can't do is when you have a player, a leader like that, who has been loyal to your organization through the ups and the downs, you can't just, when things are bad, when the defense is historically bad, dump on him. And I feel like for everyone out there that is pointing fingers at Carlos Dunlap saying that he's in the wrong, I think that the Cincinnati Bengals are in the wrong on this too, because there's a way to handle veteran players. Yeah. And they clearly have not. Zach Taylor didn't respect Dunlap when he came in. They changed up everything. Now, again, a coach has every right to bring their scheme in. Don't get me wrong. But if you're going to change your scheme, you need to do it to where it's benefiting your team, and you need to have a scheme that's actually going to help your team win. What have the Bengals done defensively to justify using your best defensive weapon less? You see what I'm saying there? That's the problem I have. So 457-9464. We are live here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM. The Cincinnati Bengals trade Carlos Dunlap to the Seattle Seahawks. And right now, the big question I have for Bengals fans is this: who's in the right? Who's in the wrong? Are we blaming Carlos Dunlap? Is he in the wrong here? Or are the Bengals wrong? To me, this isn't beat up on the Bengals day again. That's not what I'm doing. But in this situation, I'm team Carlos Dunlap, because Carlos Dunlap was coming out and voicing his frustration, saying, how are you going to keep me off the field in this final drive here that Baker and the Browns go down and score the winning touchdown? That's his problem. And he has every right to be upset. One more time. This Bengals defense has been historically bad over the years. Zach Taylor comes in to a mess defensively. You would think that, okay, I don't have a lot here, but we need to work with what we have. And what you have is one of the best one of the best pass rushers in football. Now, people are going to start throwing stats at me and say, oh, no, his numbers have diminished. I don't know. His numbers have diminished due to the usage diminishment that the Bengals defensive coordinators have been using him. I just don't get it. You don't have enough defensive talent or weapons on this defense to justify taking the one weapon that you do have and trying to convince the fans and the media and everyone else that, oh, yeah, our scheme, we schemed it up to use our best defensive player less. And you wonder why he's upset. It's not like this is one of the top 5 defenses in the NFL, and he's just like, okay, I gotta be a good teammate here. The team above my needs because we're playing well. They're not playing well. They're not playing good defensively. They're not getting to the quarterback, but that's what he can do. That's why Seattle gave up a lineman in the 7th round pick to go get him, because that's their need. Coincidentally enough, Kevin, that's the Bengals' need too, and you gave up that need. Right. I don't get it. You had the answer right there. You should have handled it differently. I'm team Carlos Dunlap as far as that's concerned.
It's a couple things I want to hit on. One, Carlos Dunlap was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school, the number 1 defensive end in the country, went to Florida, won a national championship. He's taken his 81.5 career sacks to Seattle. He's 31 years of age. Could this possibly be something that we see a lot in the NBA, youth movement? We see this in the NBA with the youth movement. We see this a lot in college football, where a new coach comes in and there's older guys on the team, upperclassmen, but they brought in a nice little recruiting class and they want to start playing the true freshmen and the redshirt freshmen kind of to see what they got, because they did sign Carl Lawson last year, who was good when he was with KC. They have the one kid, Bledsoe. They had Hubbard from Ohio State, who's on the IR now. So I'm asking, is this something, could we look at it like that? Like they're going youth movement, like, we want to see what these younger guys have in these situations.
To be fair, yes, I think that is absolutely something, a direction that this Bengals team could be going in. And 457-9464 will take your calls on this. But yes, they could be going in that direction. And I'm okay with that too. When you're rebuilding, okay, fine. But the way they went about doing it, again, then why keep them? Like, the only reason Dunlap is gone today is because he had to go throw a fit on the sideline. And sometimes when players' backs are against the wall, you put them in a situation where they have to force their way out. So that's the thing. Like, so if they were going in that youth movement, okay, I'm okay with that. But you have to be smart as an organization and say, well, if we're going to go in the youth movement, we need to sit down with our veterans, especially a loyal team captain, former Pro Bowler in Carlos Dunlap, and say, hey, we respect everything you've done for our franchise. We loved having you here, but again, we're going in a different direction. We're going to look to trade you. He may not like it then, and if he didn't like it then and then voiced his displeasure, then that officially becomes on Carlos Dunlap. But right now, that's not what happened. The Bengals just continued to use him less and less and less, and you could see the frustration building over the last couple of weeks, right. And they waited till it boiled over the top. So I'm with you. If it's a youth movement, I'm fine with that, but they should have looked to move him sooner and said, hey, here's the direction we're going in. We know you're better than what we have right now, but we just got to see what we got, and you don't fit into our plans moving forward. He's 31 years old. Right. He's a good fit in Seattle. Probably not a good fit on a team that's having, as you said, a youth movement as far as that's concerned.
We got Bob on the line.